Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the feed. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty.
Good morning, Bellows Falls, and welcome to the feed. We're going to talk about feeding today.
Joke today.
Yeah, sorry. It's always the pre-game joking. And David Groenewold, our chef David Groenewold, our guest today, is just giving us some pun education about the feed and a cooking show and cooking program. But welcome, David. We're going to start with Marty with some local events.
Yeah, so I just wanted to remind everyone again that Classic Movie Wednesdays are back. This week it is Smokey and the Bandit. That is underwritten by those Hadley cats, which again I'm thinking is a Charlie Hunter relation. On the 18th, it's Grease. That's underwritten by Bill Stevens and Edward Jones. And then the 25th, it's Little Women, underwritten by the Village Booksellers. Tickets are $6. Triple Up is $5. It's cheap date night, people. And also related to the Opera House is they are looking for folks that want to advertise their business. So if you've been to the movie theater, you know they scroll the ads beforehand. And they're actually keeping the rates the same from what they did prior to COVID. So you can, if you want to get your ad, a little blurb of about your business, for 1 year it's $900, for 6 months it's $500, 3 months is $375, and if you just do an a la carte or a month to month, it's $150. But if you're a member of BIFTA, you can actually get the year for a lesser rate, and then some of the money will actually go to BIFTA and help fund BIFTA. So if you're interested, I mean, you get every demographic in the theater. You get there's multiple showings a week, so your business name is getting out there in probably the most efficient way you can around here without having a strong local newspaper. And then I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow night is the Bellows Falls area-wide plan that we talked about a little bit about last week. Elijah told us about it. It's at the Waypoint Center, and it's from 6:30 to 8 p.m. So if you're interested in seeing how, or you have thoughts or ideas on how the community should move forward with developing the railroad area and the mill area, then make sure you come to that meeting.
That's great. Well, thank you, Marty. Chef David, welcome.
Well, Marty, thank you so much for having me. Let me introduce myself. I'm David Groenewold. I'm the chef instructor at the River Valley Technical Center in Springfield, Vermont. I've been there, this will be my 17th year now. I've had a wonderful experience instructing students throughout that time in the art of baking and pastry and hot foods, as well as dining room management, table service, and food safety.
Great.
So we cover the whole gamut of what it's like to work in a food service establishment. As you know, the River Valley Tech Center is work-based learning. We prepare the young students to go out into the field and be able to get a job in the industry. Many of my students are very passionate about food, and that feels like that's the way they want to go with their careers, and I'm there to help them, move them along, give them some certain skills, and hopefully they can continue their education at post-secondary schools and other further establishments down the line. The program has had great success in the past. In the last 3 years, we signed on with National Restaurant Association with the demise of the New England Culinary Institute. Kind of left a lot of the tech ed culinary programs around the state in the lurch without a lot of guidance. So we signed on with National Restaurant Association and the New York State Restaurant Association, and we're kind of combined with them right now, and it's been just a wonderful relationship. There's 4 or 5 schools in the state of Vermont that are also doing that, and that provides opportunity for the students as far as competitions are concerned, scholarships are concerned. They also have many different work-study programs where students can get into different schools and things like that. So it's really been a great relationship, and I look forward to this year again for the students to compete and do well. So that's kind of the way the program works right now. I'm looking forward to the first part of September. The students are going to be learning and taking ServSafe. And ServSafe is a sanctioned food safety course that the students get an industry-recognized credential.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
So it's something they can have in their hand when they go on a job interview, and they're saying, wow, you know, that I already have been exposed to the dangers of food safety and the huge responsibility of serving safe food and handling food and understanding the flow to make sure that the food that you're serving the public is safe for consumption. So that's just one credential. The ProStart folks with the National Restaurant Association also give us certifications that the students can use once they graduate from high school. They have the option of either going to more culinary schools, and I have to tell you folks right now that culinary industry is really hurting because of the pandemic, and so it's getting more and more difficult to find people that are interested in going into the industry. So whenever you have a scarcity, you have tremendous opportunity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of super opportunities in the food service industry right now. And a lot of people think about a food service career, you know, oh, I'm cooking behind the line, I'm flipping burgers or making pizzas or something like that. But everything is really connected to food safety. I mean, video production can be connected to food safety. Inventory control is connected to food safety. Inventory and costing, food and beverage management. One of the credits that the students receive when they take the culinary program, the 2-year program at the Tech Center, is a math credit. And the math credit they get is deriving the raw materials and finding out how much the labor cost, how much the energy cost, all the prime costs that are involved in preparing the food and bringing it up, and what to charge for that particular product.
Yeah, that's a good skill set.
We have a little promo video that you guys gave us. Why don't we show that, and then we'll come back and ask you some questions.
Great.
Well, that looks fascinating.
You have a huge kitchen. I guess I didn't realize you had like.
One of the benefits about the Tech Center is the size of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And when we were hit with the pandemic and the restrictions of social distancing last year, one of the great saving graces of the culinary program was the size of the kitchen. So the students were able to set up their stations, be the appropriate distance apart, work on their projects, work on their disciplines, and still have a meaningful educational experience in there.
It gave you some chances to exercise too, right?
You know, for a chef, I've really got the best job that there could ever be. There are so many chefs out there right now, and I have to speak to my advisory board. I have a terrific advisory board of area chefs that are always calling and asking, do you have anybody? Do you have anybody that can come and work? How about you? I know John, Chef John up at Leslie's there wants me to come and work, and I'm just like, there's always something that gets in the way. But I have to say, the 17 years that I was in the business, it is not a career path for the faint of heart.
It is not.
It is action all the time. You're on your feet from the moment you walk in the door to the moment you leave. it's not 8 hours, it's until the job is finished, which many times can go beyond, 8 hours. It's methodical. You have to perform different functions throughout the day, and you practice your trade. You practice preparing starches. You practice preparing proteins. You practice washing fruits and vegetables and making sure they're safe. So that's the industry. When you walk out the door, at the end of the shift, you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. There's not a lot of people on the planet that can do it, and you have to be a certain type of person that can go in and work in an independent farm-to-table type kitchen and put in those hours and that type of labor. Now, because of our society and the way things are going, less and less young people actually want to go into that, and they find out how much work it is, and they're going like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure I want to do this for a career. So that has affected our food supply. It has affected the industry to the point where we have more value-added establishments that are franchises. And franchises would be something like the Golden Corral or Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's, fast food type things where the food's already prepared. And there's not a lot of skill set involved to dropping the French fries into a fat vat and then listening for the ding and then pulling them up and making that happen. While that is food service, that's really not culinary arts or cooking. So I think as our society progresses on, we're going to see more and more of a divide as far as value-added foods that are already prepared and cooked somewhere else and farm-to-table foods. And one of the great things that I've been so blessed with teaching here in the Valley is the tremendous produce in the farms and the things that come out of come off the fields. Especially coming up here now in September, the students just get all kinds of things to work with and practice on. I have partners, Pete's Farm Stand, John and Teresa do a great job keeping me supplied with, not the perfect looking foods, but definitely the seconds that can keep the kids busy and cooking and practicing.
Would you say that's something that's true for Vermont or true in general in the country now? Because I think there's actually more and more farm to table, and maybe it's a niche industry, and I know what you're saying. I mean, if you go to cities, it's going to be value added, but I see around here, I think most of the restaurants are sort of a farm to table, more small scale in industries, and then also with COVID and the Everybody Eats programs and all those, there's a lot of local produce that has come out of I don't know where it was before, but like Northwind Farm and High Meadow Farm and Pete's Stand, all these places are really producing some great stuff.
Oh, it's always fabulous. Even the orchards and the berry farms and things like that, it's terrific. I want to give a shout out to the guys at Food Connects as well. They're doing a great job with the local produce, keeping it local, which is just really what it's all about. We read a lot of articles many times where our organic produce will be put on a truck and shipped to New York, and then it goes to New York, and then guess what? It goes back up to Vermont to be in the thing. So
I believe it.
Those folks have really done a lot of things with logistics and enabled the fresh food to get to our people. One of the problems now is that our growing season ends, mid-December, and we tumble into July or January and February and March, and we're at the whim of logistics and trucking. And with the pandemic right now, there's a huge problem with logistics and supply chain, and we see the prices going up in the grocery stores, and it's very concerning for the program. but because of what we're talking about with our area farms, the kids have a lot of things to work on.
So
and
what
play
age groups, where do people, when do kids start in your program? Like what age groups do you encourage them to start thinking about coming in and seeing you?
You know, the typical student will start as a sophomore, or they'll take an introduction class in high school, and Springfield is usually the class that has the introduction class. It's hard to get Bellows Falls and Green Mountain, and well, now Ludlow is part of Green Mountain, and it's hard for those students to show up and just take a 40-minute class.
Yeah.
But by taking the 40-minute class, they get exposed to the kitchen, they see what it's all about, and they really get hooked and want to even endeavor more into that beautiful facility. So the regular student will sign on as a junior, and then they get 3 elective credits for the first year being a junior, and then they'll finish up the final year as a senior, and then they'll get 2 elective credits and a math credit.
Wow.
So those are the credits that they get for taking that program. Now, I have to advise many of the students that are in high school, their freshman and sophomore years, they need to take as many as their required classes as possible.
Because you don't want to put
Because
that stuff off.
so many kids are really want to take the program, but find out they don't have their credits and they haven't taken enough of the required credits in order to fit that into their block scheduling. So they're kind of denied systematically with the way our education is structured. So they really want to think about that as far as that goes. But
So your class, like if you sort of describe a day of class to me, like how many people are in a class and then how long do they spend in a class a day?
well,
That's a tough question,
Marty, it's kind of interesting because it's split up into 2 different classes. I have an AM class that starts around 7:45 and goes till 9:45 for 2 hours. And then the introduction class comes in for 40 minutes. And then I have an afternoon session, which starts around 11:30 and goes to like 1:30. Okay? So the way it's structured is the kids that come in the morning will come in and take raw materials, and they'll work on mise en place. Mise en place is what we talk about as far as dicing onions or washing lettuce or making hamburgers or fabricating chickens, getting everything ready to go so it's ready to cook.
Oh, okay.
We talked about value-added cooking. So basically your mise en place and the students in the morning are doing your value-added cooking and getting everything ready to cook. Then in the afternoon, the next session comes in and they step right onto the hotline. Our restaurant fills up with maybe 50, 60 people within a couple of minutes. And you have the students that are waiting on the tables and the students that are cooking behind the line.
Oh, this is cool.
They make up the menu, they cost the menu. It's a whole big, huge production. I just really like it. Our clientele is the older senior folks. Of course, none of this happened last year.
Yeah.
And they really just were disappointed in that. But one of the things I pride myself in is that this particular educational program gets the adolescents talking to the senior citizens.
Yeah.
So there is some talking there, some convergence and some discussions as far as that goes. They're serving them, they're communicating, they're working on their interpersonal skills. And in this day and age with technology and the way things are going, we have less and less of that. And I think we're really...
Especially across the generations.
Yeah, across the
Generational
generations, that's
cross.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so we're really trying to make that happen. So the restaurant is fabulous. We lunches start, I think we just run a flat rate of about $8. This year, no doubt, it's probably going to go up because of
Materials and stuff.
materials and such. And to be honest with you, I don't know what the guidance is going to be from our government
I don't think
officials.
anybody does right now.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm very hopeful. We're very hoping that that the restaurant can be open again because the kids really enjoy
So-
making that type of thing.
So the kids that do the morning, that do the mise en place, and then the kids that serve, do then the classes switch so that everybody gets
Or is it
exposed
like
to?
juniors and then seniors?
Yeah.
Oh,
It used to be that way, Mike, Martha. It used to be where I had the juniors in the morning and the seniors in the afternoon. But in order to accommodate the students' schedules, they can take either the afternoon or the morning. But the sticker is they have to take the morning and the afternoon.
In order to get the
To
credit.
In
the
order
whole-
to get the
right.
full
Right.
concept of the program, because the morning is a skill set as far as chef's knife working with mixers, working with slicers, experiencing the hotline, figuring out how steam tables work, cooking methods, all the production that goes on behind the scenes. While the afternoon is food costing, menu development, waiting on tables, communications, and then you have the whole liaison or the bringing together of the back of the house to the front of the house with the students cooking behind the line, making the meals, and then having them served by the students
Yeah,
as well.
sounds great.
I'm just curious, and this is just my own curiosity. So earlier you mentioned that there is definitely, the restaurant industry is definitely hurting right now for competent, or even warm bodies in some cases, but definitely competent help. Is there within your program, and this might not fit within the, is there a place for any type of like job retraining, like folks that aren't in high school now but want to learn a skill? Is there any component there at the credit union? Listen to me. At the I knew I was going to make that
Technical
faux pas. I knew I was going to make that faux pas. I knew I was. At the technical college, is there any component to that? Like, say there's a workforce out there that maybe is looking for jobs, but they didn't go through a culinary program, or does that fall at like the college level?
I think that many students that are in high school do find their way in food service. That's really how my career started. That was not a brilliant kid when I graduated, and we found out that this was a team environment. It was people that were all working together to achieve a common goal. So it didn't really matter if you had a strong background. You kind of
you
learned
on
as
the
you
job.
go.
Yeah, 'cause
you learned on the job.
Okay.
And that was just that's just fabulous, because you see how the industry is very fast paced. It's really moving. You got to be with it. You got to be on spot. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, it takes a certain type of individual to really.
It does, and I think, well, from all aspects of it, having worked on the front of the house in the restaurant industry, there's also a certain, just so that people don't get discouraged when you talked about how many hours it is and all that stuff, there's a certain, like, I don't know, you get a certain vibe going, there's a certain energy that gets going when the back of the house and the line and the food's coming out and the servers are getting it and people are happy, and there's just a certain, I don't know, it's hard to describe that kind of, like, everything's going really well. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you get in the weeds, but there's something about that you don't maybe get sometimes from other careers.
It's controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really
Is what
fun.
it was. Before my last job in the industry was at the Old Red Mill up in Wilmington, Vermont, and it was not uncommon to go in there during the ski season and serve 400 to 450 meals. And it was just a dynamic. The servers made all kinds of money on tips. It was very fast paced. Prime rib is good because you just cooked off the roast and you threw the thing on the slicer, and you'd serve anywhere from 100 to 125 dishes of prime rib on a night. And as you mentioned, Marty, just that excitement of being involved in an operation like that is just a thrill. It's a thrill. And at the end of the shift, when you walk out and you're going like, oh my gosh, that was like the craziest thing that I've done in a long time. And you do it day after day after day, and you start to find out the camaraderie that you build among your coworkers and the ability to work together. is something that is really magical about the industry.
It is, and I think, and I also think we have 1 minute. I also think it's a great, as far as like front of the house, I think it's a great life skill.
Oh, it certainly is. It certainly is.
Learning to deal with, like you were saying,
Yeah.
that having your students interact with older people, and just having students interact, and having to
Yeah.
talk to people, and having to. I think the service
Yes.
industry is just
Yeah.
total life skill. So yes,
we've
we're
done it
probably 30
again.
seconds. We've run out of time.
We've talked and talked, we've run out of time. David, thank you
Mike?
for coming.
Thank you.
Is there any, telephone numbers or anything you want us to, I think maybe
You can
Carl
see them up
throw
on the
that up.
screen, the River Valley Technical Center in Springfield, Vermont. Beautiful facility, excellent instructors, super place to go and learn anything. If it's building trades, health careers, childhood development, there's just many, many programs. You can go on our website, rvtc.org, and it's all there.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And
All
the other answer to your one question was, I saw there were continuing ed credits for people, you can actually, there's certain colleges
Oh, okay.
that recognize the program as for
Yeah.
continuing ed.
Yeah.
But, we're out of time. Thank you again,
All
David.
right, thank you.
And we'll see you, Bellows Falls, that's the feed for this week.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music.